Your point in terms of when does it stop, I think that's what we call the legislative process, which is that folks are going to come in and they're going to ask for things, and we're going to have to decide when we give it to them and when we don't. And I think what we can all agree upon is that when it comes to the safety of our children, it doesn't matter what their religious beliefs are, or whether they go to public or non-public schools. Just like it doesn't really matter when you call 911, they don't ask you, hey, what are your religious views? What are your personal views? What are your political views? Oh, well, we're not sure if we're going to respond to this call because we don't agree with you. That's not how we do public safety in New York or anywhere else in this country. We base it on the need. The reality is that there is a need for public safety for children. These children have the same blood that courses through their veins as any other child in New York, including those in non-public schools and in public schools. They have parents like any other child in New York. They've got brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandparents who care about them as much as everyone else, and that's what we were talking about, and it's one issue, and it's public safety. And so I certainly understand that there's always a need and an interest when we come to a hearing where we like to talk about many different issues. But I would like to refocus us on, in fact, the one and singular issue, and that is, do children need public safety in non-public schools? And so my question is really going to focus on that to the panel. And it's a difficult question to ask because it puts you in a tough position, but the reality is, do you feel like your children are adequately protected now? And do you believe that having school safety agents would increase their protection to a minimal level similar to that of public school children?
We have done all we can in terms of trying to maximize the security in our schools. As I previously said, there are cameras. There are occasionally people who are hired. We have no doubt that the passage of Intro 65 would improve and maximize security and have a tremendous deterrent effect moving forward here. We think it is an absolutely essential bill, and we thank you for being the prime sponsor of it.
Thank you. Is it fair to say that the panel agrees with that assessment?
Absolutely.
So I think that really needs to be our focus. The reality is that this year we're going to spend approximately $2 billion more than we spent last year. We have more revenue in the city. We have more spending. We spend on a lot of different very important issues. The question I think that we have here today, which is a basic question, and that is, of the $2 billion and more money that we spend, do we spend a few million dollars to ensure that 250,000 school children, these are regular kids, they're innocent kids, they didn't do anything to anybody, they didn't beat up on anyone, they're just going to school, whether those children deserve to be safe? And I think that really is the critical issue. And I think you would all agree that right now the resources just aren't there. And I think, Joe, you said it best. You're dealing with limited resources. You're doing the best that you can. But the reality is you can't have a school safety agent in front of every school because you can't afford it. And if we're getting into details, I would care to mention that, incidentally, that the reason we have so much extra money in our budget is because approximately $4.5 billion of savings that these non-public schools provide to the city of New York, that they're actually not spending this money. So I don't think it's whether we agree or disagree on in terms of the schooling and the education and the beliefs. I think the focus needs to be on the safety of our children, and that is paramount. And I think every parent watching this on television and every reporter who has a brother or a sister or a child or a niece or a nephew, and every council member has to ask themselves a very basic question: do we want our kids to be safe or not? That's the only question that we're dealing with. And certainly we can have enlightened and interesting conversations about different issues. But the bottom line is this budget and this bill deals with one singular issue: the safety of that individual child. And the votes are going to be very clear. You either support a child's safety, or if you vote against it, you don't support children's safety. And that's really what my legislation is all about. Thank you very much.